smoking a cigarette, understanding J. Krishnamurti by the creek, under the rain, whatever title I can come up with. Just felt like recording. I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna go. Obviously, I didn't put much thought to it because my feet are drenched, and luckily this tree is keeping you from getting wet. But I do have an umbrella because I got a safety team, obviously, just in case do something like that. Hopefully we won't need it. It's drizzling though, and if it weren't for this tree, I mean, yeah, it's raining. But yeah, we're gonna have the American Spirit in yellow. I just recently just haven't been really enjoying the bitterness of the Marlboro, that little sharp soury taste. Yeah, just haven't been. So I like these because it just mainly feels like smoke. Obviously it's not any safer, but just been preferring these, and probably gonna be yapping a lot about Krishnamurti, so a longer cigarette, a longer burn. That's what we're here doing, as the rain is dripping on me. So anyways, let's get this open. Slight one up. Let's see. Enjoying a little buzz on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, man, it's probably like maybe 5 years ago when I discovered Krishnamurti. You know, ever since I was a little kid being brought up in Tibetan Buddhism, I guess I just always had this, for lack of a better word, emptiness inside me. Just wanted wisdom. And I guess dead kings, dead philosophers kind of intrigued me. And so when I was 19, I stumbled across Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, went through the whole Stoicism phase, and all the self-help arc afterwards, just going into every one of these books that I thought could give some insight, shed some light. Because, you know, you could have a great teacher on money, a great teacher on how to build things, but there's not a great teacher on freedom in yourself, where there's a deep sense of peace which money can't buy. And so in general, things that money can't buy, I guess, are the things that I'm really intrigued by. Because I mean, look, I'm not saying I'm better and I'm like playing some kind of status game and being like, yeah, I'm not really chasing girls or money or things like that. Obviously, I'm a normal dude, asshole in the woods, right? But a part of me was really intrigued by freedom, things that money can't buy, because I'm not really materialistic. I could probably be surviving on thrifted clothes for the rest of my life. I don't really care for things that have labels or cool luxury brands. I don't care. So I guess naturally Krishnamurti was someone who right away just kind of clicked to me. And he's such a fascinating guy. And part of the reason why I'm even making this video is because I would be ranting and talking about this anyway. With a friend, I would just, you know, they say the thing that you can talk about with people non-stop with no motives, that's usually the thing that is really what you're really interested in. As you can see, I'm amazing with words. And it's not because I'm getting this clean buzz. American Spirit yellow. Can't go wrong. But yeah, Krishnamurti was a really interesting guy. He lived a very unconventional life. To kind of take it back to the story of, as far as I know, a man named Charles Webster Leadbeater, just call him Charles. He was traveling, and he was a part of this society called Theosophical Society, which was a bunch of people, I think in the 80s or 70s. Again, this is literally off the top of my head. I could be wrong. It was a part of a group where these people took different aspects of religion to really just get to the truth of things. And it was mainly a community first, as the rain is dripping on me. And what's interesting is that he was in a beach, or at a beach called, I think, Adia. But the place itself is called Chennai, India, or Madras. And he was on the beach and he saw this young man who must have been like 8 years old or 9 years old. And I guess in a weird way, I relate to Krishnamurti in a sense, because there's a similar parallel between my life and his life as far as I'm concerned. And some people have said that Charles himself, he was, what's the word when you can see through things? Clairvoyant. You know I'm getting a buzz when I start stumbling on my words. And apparently he was clairvoyant, and he saw Krishnamurti and he said there's something pure about him, something about his aura. It lacked that selfishness, that desire to preserve the self, right? And in some ways, he lacked ego. And he saw Krishnamurti and said there's something pure about him, and there's a potential that he could be a great teacher. Now I understand. You can get woo-woo and say that society was a cult, that they groomed him into becoming something, and that he was manipulated. But I truly believe that Krishnamurti, for some odd reason, dare I say, he's the closest to a documented version of what we know as a Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad the Prophet, Krishna, because all these tales, at the end of the day, are tales. And so, the way I measure something is through the truth of what they say. And as far as I can tell, all these religions, they have elements of truth that if you abide by them, you'd live a good life. Maybe not a great life, but a good life. And so, he saw Krishnamurti and he said something about him, and they took him to Bexhill in England, and he lived in a manor, an estate, and obviously these people had a lot of money, a lot of donations coming in from people that were already wealthy. And before Krishnamurti even arrived, they were self-sustaining, and they've been that way for 30-some years. And in the beginning, his parents worked at the society itself while Krishnamurti was getting studies, learning the different culture. I mean, he must have seen all these wealthy people, and going from India, you know, everyone makes fun of India in the internet, which I think, by the way, is just cycles of things. There was a period where people were hating on Asians, obviously blacks, and just, I think these are all just cycles. And imagine being a kid, seeing how poor people were, and then going to a place where you're like, you live the most luxurious life. Like, this is what you define as old money. And the people at that time were saying, he's covered in fleas. Why'd you bring this kid? You know, like, and so naturally he learned how to dress himself in a nice suit, a proper gentleman fashion. And in some sense, I guess, he was an aristocrat. But having been at that society and doing what they told him to, because he had much care and affection for these people that he grew up with, people that he loved. He didn't want to disappoint them by saying, I don't believe in any of this shit. But at some point, he said, truth is a pathless land, and he renounced everything. And he lived the rest of his life not really thinking about his food, his housing, or what would actually happen to him. Because, anyone else in that position would have stayed and would have kind of done the bidding, so to speak, right? And so he renounced all the land that was given to him, the luxuries, and he started just teaching. And ironically, he became a great teacher. And so you don't have to look at Krishnamurti and say, I like him, I dislike him. But listen to what he's saying. It's truths. Truths on how to be a free man. Now, if you want to be a great doctor, a great lawyer, a great musician, you got to find those mentors. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the only teacher that I've found or stumbled across that has really unlocked some aspect of internal peace, thing that money can't buy. And so he lived in England and he taught. And somewhere along his timeline, there was a great scientist named David Bohm. David Bohm stumbled across his book called The First and Last Freedom. And as he was reading through all of it, he said, there's something deeply profound here. And he said, I gotta find this guy. And when they eventually met, they had these great dialogues. And I truly think that they became great friends. And their dialogues are the things that I have literally put thousands of hours listening into. We'll take a puff. Such a clean hit, man. I love it. I love it. And David Bohm, he wasn't some guy who wasn't brilliant in his own right. He had letters with Oppenheimer. You can decide if morally that was the right thing or not. He had dialogues and letters to Albert Einstein. So clearly he was a smart guy. And he saw that Krishnamurti wasn't just a guru. Because around this time, India was kind of seen as a place of spirituality. And a lot of people from the West looked at India and said, we just need this spiritual wealth because we are aching for it. And all the Kundalini yoga and everything that came from there. He was the one guy who David Bohm was like, he doesn't seem like a charlatan, a fraud. Someone who's just, what we'd say, LARPing. Fuck it, bro. You might see me smoke another one because this shit's going out. And I got a lot more to say. Like I said, the thing that you can talk about infinitely is probably the thing that you are interested in most. I could talk a lot about music, but this I could talk a lot about. So we'll take a few minutes to enjoy this. Man, this tree is really covering a lot of the rain. Or else I'd need this umbrella. But I don't need it at the moment. I'm glad. And so David Bohm eventually became a great friend of his, supported the foundation that he had, which sold books on Krishnamurti's behalf, and he never handled the money. The question is, can everybody live that way? Probably not, right? But what he was concerned with wasn't trying to change the world, but with the individual. And if the individual can see the nature of his thought and how it creates pleasure and pain, that the ground in which you can receive that peace is something nobody can take away from you, whether you're in a jail cell whether you're in this so-called boundary on a map which doesn't exist in real life, wherever you may be, that thing that we all inherently know to be true, yet immediate question is, how do I do meditation? How do I achieve it? How do I get it? Because our whole life is around achieving and getting and possessing. I'm gonna burn this out, and I might light up another one in a few minutes or so once this buzz is settled down. And Krishnamurti Krishnamurti in himself, he said really profound things. But at the end of it, who was he? He was someone who explored the realm of thought so deeply that he charted the different corners in our mind where all these contradictions lie. Now, outwardly, right, you can be incredibly successful. You can have everything going for you. Yet the rich and the poor, they struggle with the same thing. And you can blindly accept religion, and to some degree, ignorance is bliss, because you can follow it and just say, okay, this is it. But obviously, was it Nietzsche who said, God is dead? Parts of us know that these religions, even though you might be brought up as a Catholic or a Buddhist or a straight up Christian, whatever it may be, or Muslim, there are parts of it that you probably don't align with. And so that freedom, which can't be put into words, you might say is something close to enlightenment. I truly believe that Krishnamurti was enlightened. And he probably wouldn't like me saying stuff like this, because to himself, there wasn't a sense of the self that exists, because he saw through the fallacy of it. And he was just such an interesting guy. Such an interesting guy. And he had takes like, we look at life with death at the opposite ends of our life as something that we will eventually arrive to. But is it the opposite, that you can live with death now, which means the ending of attachment, the ending of your sorrows, your deep sorrows, the ending of hurts that we've recorded in the mind, which is so good at recording. He said things like, is it possible to live with death so that you are truly a free man, and that it's not something time-bound? And he went into things like psychological time versus chronological time. You know, if I'm gonna make this video, right, I gotta think about, is it gonna rain too harsh? Is there gonna be a lightning? What time am I gonna go? If I'm meeting with a friend, if I'm going to the gas station, it's time-bound, chronological time. I gotta get there on time. I gotta make sure that I show up on time. But the psychological time of becoming, once I have this status, once I have this title, once I have the thing that I've been searching for, I will become something different. That, he says, is where all of your sorrows come from. And to some degree, that sense of self exists because you need some level of ego for survival. If I were to say I don't exist and I just run in front of a train, it's insanity, right? Lunatic. Only a crazy person would do that. But the aspect of ourself, however many billions of people are in this world, every single node, every single consciousness, every single individual is thinking, I will become something, I will do this, and I will be, and it causes so much suffering. And we know too well when we're in pain. We know too well when we want pleasure. But the observation of that, the ground in which all of that happens, that is the art of meditation. And so chronological time is necessary, but is the psychological time of becoming, is that necessary? Because once you're 50, once you're 60, life has just passed by. And when this insight hasn't been seen, you live your whole life in two different sides, pain and pleasure. I don't like this and I want to feel better. I don't want this and I want this. But is there a secret door in which meditation can show you? And a part of you can have immense peace, immense security. Because at the end of the day, it is what that is what we all want, security. And we have names like a social security, you know? And to be deeply secure, it can't be something that is fake. It can't be another idea. It can't be another quote. It can't be another book. It has to be something so deeply true to you that you see it yourself. And only in that can you have this understanding. Now, listening to all this through the veil of thought, you'll say, well, how do you do it? How do I do it? Am I there already? Can I get there? Which is all the wrong questions, right? And so how do you know that part of these things are reacting? The reflex of thought, part of these things that are kicking in. It's only possible through relationships. The little quirks that you have, the little fears, possessing someone, the fear of not being enough. It's at the end of the day, a lot of us go through that, feeling like I'm not enough. I'm not a man because I can't provide. I'm not a good woman because I'm not feminine enough. I'm not in touch with my femininity, whatever it may be. We'll light up another one. Excuse me. Even though it's raining, dare I say, it's beautiful out here. But where do the deer sleep? Where do they go? I see them all the time and it's like, where do you guys go? Maybe they're like me, hiding under a tree. I don't know. Got a little raindrop on it. Tranquilo. It's all good. And so he said things like, Krishnamurti, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. He said things like, the observer is the observed, the thinker is the thought. And I know that sounds like mental gymnastics or sounds like some kind of a cool quote that you can repeat to yourself. But I truly think that Krishnamurti was using language because he, frustrated isn't the word, but he wasn't able to, if he could express the things that he saw, which gave him so much peace, while he was walking on trails just like I was, holding a jewel of meditation, which gave him so much bliss and joy. If he could tell that to another person, if they could receive it in an instant, he would do it. But language is the only way we can communicate. And unfortunately, these religious figures maybe started out with honesty, but over time, clever people started adding things on. Clever people started making it into an institution. a thing that you can follow, a thing that you can do. And so when you initially stumble across Krishnamurti, you might be a bit underwhelmed. It's like, this is it? Okay, so just observe. All right, I'm an observing motherfucker, but I got bills to pay. I got a car payment coming up. I got shit I want to do. So you just want me to observe? I got a bar that I gotta hit up on the weekends, drinking with friends, whatever it may be. It's like, you just want me to observe? That's what you want me to do, you know? It may be very difficult, but man, there's something there. And since you were born, your mind, your brain, I should say, because these labels like consciousness, the mind, the soul, it's all distracted. It's all out there, and it doesn't change you. And then eventually it becomes another idea, another thing that you cling on to that gives you this fake sense of relief. But since you were young, you've had flashcards of memory stored up. When I was 6 years old, I was hurt by this one kid. He bullied me. When I was 9 years old, I had this success and everybody loved me. When I was 15, I discovered something and I loved it. And then I got shamed for it. Guilt, burdens, all these things that we go through as a human get stored up in our minds, and we carry those hurts till we're 50, till we're 60, and we say, the thing that happened to me when I was 9, I'm still impacted by it. Grown men that were bullied since they were young, they still can't approach that same person because they're like, oh my God, I remember when this, right? And so our mind, our brain creates this image of the self. Your name could be John. Your name could be Jacob. Biblical names, I guess. These are just the names that are coming up. Whatever your name is, literally millions of others have the same name, yet you feel like it's yours. You care about your own pets, but the same dog or a cat walking across, you have no care because it doesn't have that label. It doesn't have that memory you stored. Now, we are tribal people, and that is necessary for survival. But is it necessary when it causes unnecessary suffering? And that's what meditation is. Just try to reduce some of the unnecessary suffering. Just to be a good guy, the bare minimum, right? By the way, this is not just me filling up content space. I have a song written. I just need more time to tweak it out a bit. I'll probably upload that maybe next week. We'll see. Who knows? And so, how do you reduce your suffering? Now, like we said, chronological time. If you're going to get a promotion, if you're going to get a raise, if you're trying to gain this title as a doctor or this person of a company, whatever, that takes chronological time. But suffering until you get there, and once you're there, you can see it in great fighters who have spent 20 years of their life fighting, 20 years of their life just grinding towards this belt, this thing that they've envisioned for so long. And once they become champions, you hear them say stuff like, I don't feel any different. What is this? And once they retire, they really struggle with it. Almost like a man that's served for his country and has all the post-traumatic stress and doesn't know how to reintegrate with society. And I guess to some degree, they assume that society is healthy. And we go back to that quote, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And so all the men you admire, all the successes that you think that you want, I guarantee you, their struggles are just different. And so don't envy someone who you don't know what their life is like. Because at the end of the day, if you're suffering now, if you're feeling anxiety now, if you're depressed now, that is your life. That is the thing that you need to put a spotlight on and meditate on. So if I could suggest on how to do it, it's this. Thought always wants to control things. So when you feel anxious, pain, you want pleasure, escaping into gambling, escaping into women, porn, escaping into so-called pleasures of doing things that feed your dopamine receptors. And the minute you feel good, what do you say? How do I extend this further? How do I have it tomorrow? A beautiful sunset, a nice coffee, a beautiful moment with the girl, and you say, how can I have this again? And there are men who have pulled that to extremes, and they just look dead. The soul, the look behind their eyes, they look like nothing gives them any sense of peace because they've experienced everything, they've done everything. Which is why peace, insight is a thing that money can't buy. And so you start now. You start with how you're feeling now. You see it, it rises up, and instead of labeling it, just sit with that sensation and let it burn you. And you'll realize that it's not that terrifying. Just like you wouldn't go to the gym and lift 1,000 pounds, rip your tendons, pull your muscle, and get injured for life. Start with the small things. Start with the little agitations you have, the little frustrations, the things that you don't even realize you're going through. And once you sit with it and surrender, if you're careful, you may have a moment of bliss. But right away, thought says, what next? What's the next thing? But that is the art of meditation, to observe that thing that comes, the thought. And if you're creating something, a business, a life that you're striving for, a family that you want to start, and you're envisioning all these things, these are great desires. But realize that chronological time that it takes to get there and the psychological time of you suffering until you get there is unnecessary. And that is why Krishnamurti intrigues me so much. Because it is so rare. It is so rare to go into the depths, the corners of your mind where all these contradictions lie. And so thought, the mischievous little thought, you know, the Buddhists would call it the monkey mind, the thing that just bounces around, makes all the noise. It's not that you make it stop, because if you want to make it stop, that's another thought, another desire. And that desire, if not met, brings all the suffering. So the secret door is observation, watching, maintaining presence over everything that comes up. Envy, pleasure, sorrow, loneliness. Because it's not that you're lonely when accompanied by a bunch of people. It's that thought in and of itself is deeply isolated. It makes you think your little narrow, petty life is the thing that is so important, and that it's and you miss life pass by. And you could be 40, 50, 60 and not realize this and live a whole life before you understand this. Because once you make a certain amount of money, once you have the security of a family, which if you have the luxury of having a family, all of that has so much joy, so much pleasure, things that I can't even imagine. But this thing, meditation, insight into all of this, peace, freedom, not just physically, but psychologically, that is the thing that, as far as I'm concerned, is the most important. And so then you wouldn't be asking about the meaning of life, you know? You wouldn't be asking, what is my life? What is 8 billion people in this world are asking these questions? And so meditation is not just this thing that you do in the morning and you go 5 minutes, okay, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna repeat these mantras, I'm gonna repeat these quotes, listen to binaural beats and just convince myself I'm at peace, and then go through the rest of your day. And so your day is just a repetition. Nothing is new, nothing is fresh, because thought compares things to the past and cannot accept the present. And so are you living? And if you're clever, you'll say, once I have a certain amount of money, once I have a certain luxury, then I will be at peace. It's the greatest trick that your thought will play on you. Because if you can't have peace now, you cannot have it at $1 million. You have a house when you have all these other responsibilities. It is now. Seeing that I'm coming up on my last drag, I'll end this video. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming to my little corner of the YouTube channel. Peace.